What's up, everybody? Marcus Grant, Michael F. Florio from NFL Fantasy. And with the season here, we're talking breakout players. As such, Florio's put together his list of the top 25 breakout candidates for 2023. So let's get started at number 25. The Houston Texans offense isn't one we are taking a lot of shots at, but you've got your eye on Nico Collins.
Yeah, I like Collins as the top receiver there in Houston. He is a field stretcher, so he can win on deep passes and in the red zone as well. Those are the two quickest ways for a receiver to put up big points in fantasy football. A quarterback upgrade potentially this year, and someone's got to get volume if they're falling behind in games. So I like Nico Collins as a late round flyer.
He projects as the wide receiver one in that Houston offense that, as you mentioned, could be throwing the football a whole lot this year. Moving up to number 21, and it's the first rookie we're going to talk about here, Detroit tight end Sam Laporta in a pretty good offense with a lot of opportunity potentially coming.
Yeah, I know you like Laporta as well. I expect the Lions offense to take another step forward this year. And every day there's positives coming out of camp on Laporta. He has the opportunity to be the starting tight end right away. Big target over the middle, good athlete. I think even as a rookie, he could finish as a low-end tight end one.
A lot of passing volume in Detroit, and for the ADP, the draft price you're paying, you don't have to expect him to be your tight end one every week, but a lot of chance for him to get targets with the Lions. Take a look at the rest of the players from 25 to 21. We mentioned Collins, Greg Dulcich with the Denver Broncos there, Elijah Moore, new to Cleveland, Rashad Penny, new to Philadelphia, and Laporta at 21. Moving up a few spots, this is another tight end. This one, though, definitely more of a veteran tight end. We've been looking for the David Njoku breakout for a few years now. Is this the year it finally happens?
I think so. Last year was a career year for Njoku. He was the tight end 8 in fantasy points per game, and he had the second most red zone targets at the position despite missing some time. And then there's a potentially huge quarterback and offensive upgrade if Deshaun Watson can return to form. Means more scoring opportunity and potentially more passing.
I think this is going to be a Browns offense that's a little bit more pass happy this year than it has been in past seasons. That could mean more targets for Njoku. Few spots ahead of him at number 13, another rookie, Quentin Johnston, the big man that we got a chance to see at Chargers camp earlier this summer.
And our big takeaway was Quentin Johnston looks like the big guy in a group of receivers that looks more like a basketball team than a football receiving room because they have a lot of size. And Johnston is a big-bodied receiver who is showing that he can win downfield, but I think he's the best yards after catch receiver in this draft class. And the offense, I think, could reach new heights with Justin Herbert and new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore.
One of the knocks on Johnston during draft season was that he just didn't go up to high point the football, but a lot of the training camp hype videos show him doing exactly that. Don't know if he took a lesson from Mike Williams, but that's a big step potentially in his development. Taking a look, though, at the players from 11 to 20. Dalton Kincaid, one of your Buffalo Bills at number 20. A couple of quarterbacks going back-to-back at Brock Purdy and Jared Goff. Jahan Dotson at 17, Njoku at 16. Then a slew of rookie wide receivers. Zay Flowers at 15, Jackson Smith and Jigba at 14, Johnston at 13, and Jordan Addison at 12. And we got Khalil Herbert at number 11. That gets us to number 10, and another one of your Buffalo Bills. Is James Cook ready to become the RB1 in this Bills offense?
I think so. James Cook has been one of my flag plant players. I'm very excited for him. Lots of positive talks coming out of Bills camp on Cook and how he will be the lead back for the Bills. And Devin Singletary, I know, was always like an RB3 in this offense, but he averaged around 175 or so carries per season and consistently saw over 50 targets. If you give that sort of volume to the more explosive, better receiving option in James Cook, I think he could be a really strong fantasy asset that you get at an RB3 price because people are fearing what Singletary was.
Targets are really going to be the difference in what James Cook can be for fantasy this year. If he gets them, the sky potentially is the limit for him. Speaking of targets, Jamison Williams comes in at number 8. Now, we've been having to wait on him. At first, it was an injury. This year, it's a suspension, but there's still a lot of upside with Williams.
Yeah, Jamison Williams is my guy for the 2023 season. He is one of the most explosive receivers in the NFL. He was rated the highest by Next Gen Stats of his receiving class when he came into the league, stacked receiving class, and the suspension makes him fall to the double-digit rounds, which means you could get him as a bench option, but he still brings league-winning upside if he can hit when he returns.
I think that's the thing. Everybody loves the athleticism. It's just waiting for him to get back on the field. The upside is here. It's not an injury. It's a suspension, so he can still work out with the team and sort of get that timing with Jared Goff. Number 6, this is a guy that I really have been drafting a lot early in this preseason, Cam Akers. And I know he was frustrating last year, but there's a lot of reason, I think, to be excited about him.
To borrow a line from you, it was basically they were Ross and Rachel, him and Sean McVay last year. But once he was given a chance, he was great last season. He averaged just under 21 fantasy points per game in the fantasy playoffs. He had over 100 yards in his final 4 games and a touchdown in his final 6. He is now the clear-cut lead back for the Rams, and I think an upside shot worth taking as a low-end RB2 that can outlive that draft price.
The Rams kept trying to go away from him, and then they realized that they didn't really have a better option. And Sean McVay is excited. He says the guy that we saw in December is probably the guy that's going to start the season, and that is really interesting for Cam Akers. We are now into the top 3, and this is where it gets interesting. Number 3. The Jaguars have a lot of things going for them this year. I know we're sort of worried about the pass catchers because there's so many of them, but you have no doubts about the guy who's slinging the rock this year.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about who's going to catch the ball when you're getting all of the points for that production, and that's exactly what Trevor Lawrence will get. It doesn't matter if it's Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Zay Flowers, Evan Ingram. He gets the fantasy points for all of them, and he got better last season as he became more comfortable in Doug Peterson's system. Finished the year as the QB7 and was a must-start option late in the year, but now he gets the best receiver that I think he's ever played with in Calvin Ridley, which means the passing game could reach new heights. And Lawrence is underrated as a runner, 5 rushing touchdowns last season. I think the generational talent takes the next step and maybe even finishes in the MVP discussion at the end of the season.
And I think that rushing upside is important too. We're not going to confuse him with Jalen Hurts, but he's going to do just enough to make himself viable and get you those hidden fantasy points every week. Number 2, another rookie here, Jahmyr Gibbs. I know we're all excited about Bijan Robinson. That one is an easy one, but let's not overlook what Jahmyr Gibbs can be.
A lot of Lions love in my list this year, but Jahmyr Gibbs' explosiveness for days. The Lions already had a running back room with proven vets, and they still went out and used the 12th overall pick on Gibbs, which tells me that they have big plans for him this season. He is always a threat to go the distance, whether as a runner or as a receiver, but he can really excel as a downfield threat in the passing game. Think of a more explosive Alvin Kamara. I already have him ranked as an RB1 for fantasy purposes.
I know we have to take training camp news with a grain of salt, but a lot of talk that they are using him as a wide receiver, even putting both he and David Montgomery on the field at the same time, and that only gets us more excited about what he can be in that offense. And at number 1, this guy was Mr. Air Yards last year. He gets a new quarterback this year. Tell me what you love about Chris Olave.
Exactly for what you just said. Olave showed last year that he had breakout potential at the receiver position. He ranked 7th at the position in yards per route ran. He led rookie receivers in fantasy points per game even more than Garrett Wilson, who we're all very excited about. And you call him Mr. Air Yards. He had the 2nd most unrealized air yards in the NFL last year. So with a quarterback upgrade, particularly on those deep passes, Carr was better than any of the Saints quarterbacks on 20-plus air yard passes last year. I think he'll get to show his downfield ability, which means big plays. Do not be surprised if he finishes as a top 12 fantasy wide receiver.
And I think if Michael Thomas can stay healthy and attract some more defensive attention, that only bodes well for a guy like Olave coming up in year 2. Let's take a quick look at the rest of your players from 10 to 1. You see Olave at number 1 with Jahmyr Gibbs at 2, Lawrence at 3, Kyle Pitts, we can't quit that guy. He's at 4, his teammate Drake London at 5, Akers at 6, Jerry Jeudy at 7 with Williams at 8, Anthony Richardson, the rookie quarterback in Indianapolis at 9, and James Cook rounds it out at number 10. So there you go. Michael F. Florio's top 25 breakout players for this year. Don't forget to sign up for NFL Fantasy. Get your league started today. It's fun and easy to play. You can join a league or create your own. Download the NFL Fantasy app or go to NFL.com/fantasy.